I guarantee that the path to black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has never been so clearly explained. What I'm about to show you, it explains why some people make it to black belt and some people just don't. And spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with technique. So let's break this down. There is a principle in social psychology called the Dunning Krueger Effect. Now, I'll explain in a minute where that comes from and how these guys came up with it, but it's a simple chart that puts on the y-axis, it puts somebody's confidence in something, and then on the x-axis, it puts their wisdom or their proficiency at that thing. Now, as you guys know, if you spent any time around a jiu-jitsu gym, you'll understand that there are some people that have high confidence and low wisdom, or there's some people that have high wisdom and perhaps only mid-level confidence. People can be all over the place. This chart is going to help explain and break that down a little bit. So when somebody starts doing jiu-jitsu, their confidence goes sky high. We've all seen the white belt who 3 weeks into jiu-jitsu thinks they've got it all figured out. Has anybody ever seen the white belt who is 6 months and under give instruction to other people in class? Like, coach just showed a technique, and then the 4-month white belt is off to the side showing his version of that technique to other students. If you've seen that, it's being described by this part of the Dunning Krueger effect. This is called the peak of stupidity, and rightfully so. So again, on this chart, when somebody starts out, they have low wisdom, they have low proficiency. They're not very proficient at the thing, but their confidence goes sky high. And again, guilty as charged. We've all been there, or at least a lot of us have been there when we start out. We get really excited, and it's not a bad thing because jiu-jitsu is so much fun, and we're watching videos on it, and we think that we got this whole thing figured out. But as time goes on, we realize we don't have it figured out. And then this is where a lot of people actually end up quitting jiu-jitsu. Sometimes that's later in white belt, or that's why we have this giant drop off at blue belt. Some people, they grind it out. They feel this happening and they say, you know what? I've been training for 1 or 2 years and I'm close to a blue belt, so I'll at least hang on until my coach gives me a blue belt so I won't feel like a complete failure. But this right here is called the Valley of Despair. Okay, and it's called that, and this is true across all disciplines. We have this when we start to learn about political science, or we start to learn about economics. People have high confidence, right? This is why everybody on the internet is an expert about everything, because we read a few articles and we get really, really confident in that thing. With low wisdom, we have high confidence, and so we're kind of max stupid because we're willing to talk about something, but we don't have an understanding of it yet. And that, again, gets mirrored in jiu-jitsu, but this valley of despair also gets mirrored in jiu-jitsu, right? We have this, we actually are growing in wisdom, right? We understand more about jiu-jitsu at this point, but our confidence has gone down. Now, this is true about many parts of life, right? The more you know about something, the less you realize you actually know about it. And that's why they call this the valley of despair. But don't worry, there's hope. Let's go over here. On the right side here, as you start to get more wisdom, your confidence starts to tick back up. This is the purple belt and the brown belt phase, right? Now, there's not max confidence. You might be at purple belt and you might still be less confident than the peak of stupidity white belt, but you actually are becoming more confident, and it's based on actual wisdom and proficiency. We call this the slope of enlightenment. And it's called this for good reason, because this is actually earned confidence. It's confidence on the y-axis paired with wisdom and proficiency. This is where you start to see mastery over a topic. And in jiu-jitsu, this is where we start to see mastery. That's why at purple belt, that's considered like a teaching belt. When professor's out of class, you can have a purple belt step in because they've gone past the peak of stupidity. So professor's going to trust them a little bit more. They've gone through the humility of the valley of despair, and now they're on the slope of enlightenment. They're coming back around. They also, they have this balance between they're confident, they can take on bigger, stronger opponents. They can even take on some of the newer, bigger, stronger less trained opponents. There's a lot of good qualities to these people right here. But they also have a bit of humility. They know that they don't know everything, and that's really, really important. And then as you progress up and you get into the higher brown belt phase and early black belt phase, you get to the plateau of sustainability. Sorry for my bad writing. But this is, and you'll notice, I mean, it's oftentimes only equivalent to the peak of stupidity in terms of confidence. How many black belts do you know that when they get their black belt, a very common part of the black belt speech is, I understand that this is not the end, but this is just the beginning of a new journey. The black belt also understands that although he has gained a lot of wisdom, see, it's not at the end of the chart. There's still room to go because that black belt, he or she understands that there's still more that they don't know. So again, here is earned confidence, but here is earned even more confidence. Of course, the black belt is confident, but they are not foolishly confident. There's now a pairing of wisdom, proficiency, and confidence paired together. So does this properly explain the path to black belt? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. This has been Brian from Mission Jiu Jitsu, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Saints.